Welcome to part 2 of the Premier League preview, brought to you by sportsbet.io. Do like and subscribe to keep up to date with all the latest previews for the Premier League and football across Europe, the Champions League, NFL and NBA. In part 1 of the Premier League preview, we covered the big games for Matchday 11, which was Chelsea against Arsenal, Liverpool against Aston Villa and Brighton against Manchester City. Now we're into the rest of the games with the guys putting up their predictions, and we're starting with the 3 p.m. Saturday kickoff, which is Brentford against Bournemouth. 2.52 for Brentford. Bournemouth at 2.72. Price is correct at the time of recording, and 3.55 for the tie. I would imagine that this is one of those games where, effectively, at 2.52 for Brentford and 2.72 for Bournemouth, that both of these could be attractive to people who fancy a punt on two sides who Brentford's home form is good, and Bournemouth beat Man City last time out. Tough one to call, this one, so I'm going to throw this to you, Paul, first. What's your thinking in the score prediction, please?
Well, you said it, tough one to call. Two teams, Brentford sat 10th, Brentford 12th, Bournemouth 10th. Bournemouth probably in the better form, 2 wins on the bounce, a decent draw at Villa. You look at the way that they played against Man City and Arsenal, 2 very big wins for them. They're in a good place. Areola's got them playing well. Like what they do, Bournemouth. I see. You wonder what their ceiling is. You know, both of these sides. You wonder what their ceiling is this season. Bournemouth, maybe have we got an outside chance of European place? I'm not so sure they have. They're going to have to keep consistent through the season, playing the way that they are. I think they're about right. These two, in all honesty, where they are. This is a genuine middle, like what Mel says about Man United all the time. This is a mid-table clash, 10th and 12th respectively. Brentford got done last minute, didn't they, at Fulham, and that was a pretty much similar game. Brentford, I like at home. I find Brentford a lot easier to back at home. Put 5 past Ipswich, organised set plays because of how tight it is. Listen, Bournemouth are on a really good run of form. They're going there full of confidence. But if I was going to stick my neck out and put it on the line, I would go for a home win simply because I much prefer Brentford at home than I do away.
What's your score prediction?
Oh, straight away, that's gone in early. Bournemouth will score 2-1 Brentford.
Yeah. About suits for these teams when they play each other. There tends to be goals. At Brentford, you're right with Brentford's home form. Brentford have lost 5 of the last 6 Premier League away games. At home, they've won 4 in 5 and scored 9 in the last 2 home games. And Bramo scored 7 in 5 at home as well. And Bournemouth have never beaten Brentford in the Premier League. 4 meetings, 2 Brentford wins and 2 draws. Difficult one to call, Neil. Home win for Paul. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's difficult because of the form we've seen from Bournemouth. You know, usually you'd say it's a home banker, but because Bournemouth aren't great away from home. But they've had some great results, incredible results, isn't it? You know, the draw at Villa and to beat Arsenal and City. I mean, that is absolutely incredible. And so they'll take loads of confidence into this game. Both teams are good to watch. Bournemouth are good to watch at home. They've struggled away. You have to say that. They've only won once away, and they've only scored 5 goals in the 5 games. So 5 goals, 5 games. It's not great. I like Brentford at home. I thought they nearly got away with it at Fulham. They got absolutely battered at Fulham last week, and it wasn't but for 2 late goals for Fulham to win the game. It would have been a smash and grab. But Brentford are better at home. They've conceded too many goals. I think we have to say that. So you give Bournemouth a goal for sure. But yeah, I'm on Brentford to win as well. I've got 2-1. Had 2-1 written down as well. I was a little bit more sure than Paul there. So Brentford to win this one, 2-1.
So no split opinion in this one, not just both gone for the home side, you've both gone for the same score as well. Brentford to win by 2-1. Equally, you could argue, another tough game to call. The next one we're looking at is Crystal Palace against Fulham, also 3 p.m. on Saturday. Crystal Palace at 2.62. The prices reflect this as well, how difficult it is to call. Fulham at 2.64. So Palace just slightly the favourites. 3.5 for the tie after 4 wins in 5 Premier League games for Crystal Palace, and now just won 1 of their last 10. And Fulham have scored in 8 of their last 10 away games in the Premier League. For the last 5 meetings between these two sides, you will not be surprised, have ended up a draw. Maybe that's what the guys are thinking. Neil, I'm coming to you first. Your thoughts and a score prediction, please.
Yeah, close game. I mean, I was impressed with how Palace played last game against Wolves. They ended up having 19 shots in the game. They should have won the game. And they nearly lost it. They ended up getting a late equaliser in the end. So that wasn't a bad performance, but I think they deserve more in that one. They've only won once at home so far this season. Second lowest scorers in the Premier League. So you're thinking, if they do score, how many will they score? They haven't been great going forward. But I like Fulham. Fulham have been a side I've watched this season, and I've really enjoyed watching them. They went to City, got turned over, but gave them a proper game. So I'm on Fulham to win this one. I was on them last weekend to beat who did they beat last week? Brentford late on in the game. Harry Wilson, couple of goals. Fulham have got more goals in the locker than Palace, so I'm on an away win for this one, 2-1.
Another 2-1 scoreline, being gone for 2-1 for the away side. Yeah, I've got a stat that backs it up about Crystal Palace as well. So, after scoring 18 goals in 5 home games in the Premier League, Crystal Palace last season, they've now scored 3 goals in their last 5 home games. So they have absolutely dried up. Again, have we got the same opinion between you two? Are you going for an away win in this one, Paul? What's your thinking? Score prediction, please.
No, I think Palace have turned the corner. I agree with Neil the way that they played at Wolves last week. They were unlucky not to get the result. They beat Villa midweek in the Cup as well, didn't they? Granted, it was a much changed Villa side. Palace made a few changes as well. Beat Spurs at home. So I just think Palace they're on the turn. But I do like Fulham as well. I find it hard to separate these two. Fulham, like you said, the goal scoring record, they always seem to score, especially away from home this season. Performed well at Manchester City, got 2 at Manchester City. I'm going to sit right on the fence, 1 apiece.
Yeah, well, as I said, there tends to be a draw between these two sides more often than not. Actually, it's funny with Crystal Palace because Crystal Palace are struggling, but actually they've only lost in all competitions. They've only lost 5 of 15 games. It's the draws that really hampering Crystal Palace. So the draw in that one for Paul. We're moving on to West Ham against Everton. Another tough one to call. God, it's a tough one. Matchday 11, this one.
Yeah.
West Ham are 2.16. Everton 3.45. 3.45 for the tie as well. In all competitions, West Ham have lost 5 of the last 9 games, and in those defeats, they've conceded 18 goals. They are shipping goals as well. The last 6 meetings between these two sides have seen a total of 12 goals. 9 of them have been scored in the second half. So very tight first halves when West Ham take on Everton. Paul, I'm coming to you first. Another tough one. Your thoughts and score prediction, please.
Well, these are 2 managers that seemingly bang under pressure, aren't they? With the Everton takeover coming into fruition, looking like it's on the horizon imminently. Sean Dyche's contract's up at the end of the season. There's always going to be talk about his future with the new ownership coming in. West Ham, Lopetegui. But then the owners have come out at West Ham and literally very resiliently stood by the manager. Said even if we lose 5-0 at the weekend to Everton, he'll still be in charge at the week. After that, because we feel that he's the right man for the job and we trust in him and the project, what he's doing. I think if it is 5-0 to Everton at the weekend, that statement will be tested heavily, in all honesty.
Yeah,
I don't think there'll be many West Ham fans that are quite happy with that, to be honest. They've been so inconsistent, West Ham. I haven't seen anything different from them. Yes, they've had injuries, yes. Listen, he changed it to 3 at the back last week against Forest, which I was surprised at. Defeat 3-0 away. But Forest are in a good vein of form at the moment. I don't trust Everton away from home. As good a run as they've been on, you look at the results that they've had. They won away at Ipswich. The defeat away last week against Southampton. No disrespect, I think if they were playing a better team than Southampton, they get beat by more. I'm on a home win here. I think the London Stadium's a difficult place for Everton to go. Sat in 16th, I am going to go for West Ham to turn the corner this weekend. A 3-0 home win to West Ham.
Wow. Comprehensive victory for West Ham. Last season, West Ham won Everton, and Everton won at West Ham. And if West Ham do win this one, it will be their 3rd win in a row at home. They've not done that since mid-2023. Your thoughts on this one, Neil?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the scoreline last week for West Ham, they got turned over 3-0 by Forest. I think the sending off had a big impact on that. That was at 1-0, the sending off, just before half-time. They played the whole second half with 10 men, West Ham, and that was difficult against Forest. So maybe that in scoreline's a little bit inflated and looks worse than perhaps West Ham would have been. Everton should have beat Southampton. Everton had so many chances to win that game, and it looks a horrendous result to get beat to Southampton because not many teams will this season, but they missed a lot of chances. They really did, and should have won that game comfortably. So, the biggest problem for both these teams is conceding goals. You look at it and you think, fancy both to score because the defensives this season have been good enough. But I'm just not confident enough to back West Ham. Something's not right there. By the way, how has Kudus got a 5-game ban for that sending off? It's just not right, is it? I mean, how's he got an extra 2 games? Because he appealed it. Honestly, 5 games for that. What is going on? And he's a big miss. Really like Kudus. So that's a big blow for West Ham to miss 5 games from his sending off. I'm sitting on the fence. Yeah, I don't see West Ham winning this one. I don't see Everton winning it 1-1.
Yeah. I will tell you now that Paul went for 3-0 for West Ham. The last time West Ham beat Everton at home 3-0 was all the way back in 1965. That was the last time that West Ham beat Everton 3-0 at home. 1-1. I guess there's a lot of...
Well, when you were 10, weren't you?
I was, to be fair, that's a bit cheeky. I was 9. There's a lot of these games where you kind of go, the draw could be a play between these two. There's very little to separate them, and then we come to an interesting clash, also 3 p.m. on Saturday. People may say this is an easier one to call. I'll see which way you go on this one. Wolves at home to Southampton, a must-win for both sides. Southampton coming into this one after, a victory against Everton. Wolves are Wolves, 1.96 for the home side. It's not often you're going to get Wolves this season under 2 to win. 3.7 for Southampton, 3.75 for the tie. In the last 5 head-to-head meetings between these two sides, Wolves have won all 5. Neil, I'm coming to you to you on this one. Wolves against Southampton. Thoughts and score prediction, please.
Yeah, home banker. Wolves have been awful this season. You've seen that. They haven't even won a game in the Premier League yet so far this season. Conceded the most in the Premier League, which may be surprising for you, but they are the bottom. 4 points from safety. I mean, Southampton, I don't think Southampton are winning an away game all season. They've lost all 5 games so far. They scraped to win last weekend against Everton because Everton missed so many chances. And as much as Wolves have been poor, and they have, maybe they've not had that little bit of luck. If they can't beat Southampton, they're going down. It's as simple as that. So, I'm on Wolves to win this one. Southampton I just don't see any way for Southampton to stay up this season or win an away game. So, yeah, Wolves to win and relieve a little bit of pressure on Gary O'Neill because he needs that win. He needs that win desperately. I've got 2-0 home win.
Yeah, I think the problem with Wolves this season is that when they play bad, they lose, and when they play well, they lose. And that's absolute bang-on relegation form, because they've actually sometimes played, for me personally, they played better than some of their results. Southampton won their last game in the Premier League. Here's a stat for you. It has been 63 games since they last won back-to-back games in the Premier League. So generally when they win, they lose the following game or don't win it. So a home win for Neil. Paul, Wolves, Southampton, which way are you going?
Yeah, I'm going to this game actually. The game I was supposed to be covering was Everton West Ham, but because of the dynamic and the subplots around this game, the broadcasters changed it to Wolves Southampton because there's two managers under pressure here. This is a big result with the international break coming up. We know that managers are often hired and fired during international breaks, and with Wolves not winning a game and Southampton only winning one, there's a huge subplot around this game. I like Wolves. I like Gary O'Neill, what he's doing. I know that the Wolves fans are a little bit disgruntled, but you look at their results. The game that I've watched them and worried for them this year was when they got beat 5 at Brentford. They had 5 put past them, and that's when he got a bit of stick. But then you look at the other games. Was it 2-1 against Liverpool? I think it was. It was 2-1 they lost against Man City. They drew away at Brighton. Granted, it was a late goal. Drew at home to Palace. They've never been really soundly beaten. They've always been in games, apart from that Brentford result. Southampton, on the other hand, you struggle to see where they're going to string a run of results together, especially away from home. So I like Neil. I'm on a home win. I'm expecting a very, very good atmosphere at Molineux. And I think the pressure will be eased on Gary O'Neill. 3-1 Wolves.
3-1. It's interesting going for Southampton goal, because if they do score the first goal, Southampton, they take the lead, that pressure and that atmosphere in Molineux could turn very, very, very quickly. So if Southampton do score, for Wolves' sake, I hope it's a consolation, because if they go 1-0 up, it could turn nasty there, because they will turn on Gary O'Neill. That's just Saturday action. We're moving to Sunday now, 2 p.m. Two sides who are kind of going, well, we did this just a week or so ago in the League Cup. Man United at home to Leicester. Man United are 1.39, price is correct at time of recording. You've got Leicester at 6.6 and 5.6 for the tie. Of course, that clash in the League Cup finished 5-2 in favour of Manchester United. Man United have won just 4 of their last 10 Premier League games at Old Trafford, and Leicester have conceded 8 goals in their last 2 games at Old Trafford. Paul, I'm coming to you first. Man United, Leicester, thoughts and score prediction, please.
Yeah, Van Nistelrooy's unbeaten run continues and takes him all the way to the international break. Struggling to find a case for Leicester going there. Listen to Manchester United against PAOK last night. It didn't sound like a traditional United European performance at home, although they've not won in Europe for such a long time. That was a result that they needed last night. Under Van Nistelrooy, they put 5 past Leicester in the League Cup. Granted, changed a little bit. Decent home draw against Chelsea. There's still so much work to do. They're by no means turned the corner, but I don't see Leicester being a stumbling block for them. Leicester's away draw at Ipswich, the back of 2 defeats, the win at Southampton very late on, how they got it maybe eased a little bit of pressure on Steve Cooper. 1-2, drawn 4, lost 4 Leicester, especially away from home. You can't trust a newly promoted team, although we're talking about a Man United side that are in 13th place in the Premier League, hence the reason that Ruben Amorim's coming in, which is almost unthinkable. But it's hard to back against Manchester United at home. I think they'll win this, and I think they'll win it comfortably 2-0.
Interesting, gone for a clean sheet, because both teams to score has happened in every single Premier League away game for Leicester so far this season. And as I said, at Old Trafford in the League Cup recently, they came and scored 2. I can also tell you that in Leicester's last 4 Premier League away games, a goal in the 90th minute has been scored in all 4. So it could be late drama at Old Trafford. Comfortable home win for Man United, says Paul. Does Neil agree?
Yeah, I mean, this is 2 sides in the bottom half of the table. I'm sure it won't be a classic.
He's come from mid-table to bottom.
Bottom half of the table teams. I fear for Leicester. I really fear for Leicester. They've done all right to sort of get themselves out of the relegation place. They did brilliant not to get a points deduction, by the way. But I can see them having a few tough games, and this is one of them. United, They've had a lift, haven't they? Ten Hag's gone, Ruud van Nistelrooy's there. This is his last game in charge. That was a good point, really good point against Chelsea. They beat Pauk, Diallo, who I like, really like him. He may well get a start in this game. But Manchester United are the 2nd lowest home scorers in the Premier League. Manchester United, 5 games, they've scored 4 goals. It's just not been good enough. That's why they've changed. But I think they'll get a few goals in this one. Maybe not as many as 4, but close. I've got United to get 3 goals in this game and Leicester to get 1. So good game, but this is too tough for Leicester. 3-1 United.
In the last 15 home games in the Premier League for Manchester United, they've kept a clean sheet in just 3 of them. So they're not scoring and they're conceding. That's always a recipe for disaster. Right, I have a question. We haven't had a question so far, but I've got a question for both you guys to try and explain this to me. Nottingham Forest against Newcastle United, 2 p.m. on Sunday. I'll come to Neil first on this one. You can have first pick at the question. Forest at 2.76, Newcastle at 2.62. 3.3 for the tie. As we look at the Premier League table right now, 3rd in the table is Nottingham Forest on 19 points. And then if you have to scroll down to 11th to find Newcastle on 15 points, their away form is not spectacular. Why are Newcastle, Neil, slight favourites to win this one? Because I don't understand why.
Because Newcastle will finish above Nottingham Forest, because Newcastle have got a better team than Nottingham Forest, and Newcastle will go there and win. And they've won the last 2 games there. And this is why they did the bleep test during the week, Newcastle. Did you see that? How horrible was the bleep test? Oh, my God. So Newcastle aren't in Europe, as we know, this season. And he only got them doing the bleep test. And I was watching it, and the lads' faces, it was funny as if to say, this is horrible. Like being 18 again in the youth team. I always used to wait for the goalkeepers to drop out and think, right, okay, it's okay. I can drop out now. Robbo, you can't have been good on the bleep test.
Just so long as you beat somebody, mate, that's all you got to do. Just don't be the last one, don't be the first one out. Beat somebody.
We used to have, remember big Chris Kirkland? He was like one of the fittest in the squad, so you're thinking, goodness me, he ain't dropping out. Need to pick somebody else. Didn't enjoy the bleep test. But anyway, Newcastle will be fit this weekend after the bleep test. I'm on them to win. I'm on them to win this game. This is in my treble as well. Really fancy them strongly to get that win. They beat Arsenal last weekend, massive confidence. And the good news for Newcastle, Isak back scoring goals. One of the best centre-forwards in the Premier League for me. One of, not the, in case people say, he's not better than Haaland, but he's a top centre-forward. And as good as Forest have been, I think this is where they have a little bit of a setback. They've not had many. Brilliant start to the season for them. I think this is where Newcastle win. And to answer your question again, Newcastle will finish above Nottingham Forest, and this result will show why they're a better team. 3-1 away win.
Wow, 3-1 away win. If you remember last season, Forest won 3-1 at Newcastle with a Chris Wood hat-trick. You know I like Chris Wood. 7 consecutive games now in which he scored for club and country. Fabian Schär, by the way, has actually scored 2 in 4 against Forest. If you want an outside anytime goal scorer shout, he's one of them. In the last 3 meetings between these two sides, it is the away side that have won all 3. So maybe that is why Newcastle are 2.62 and slight favourites to win. Do you agree with the pricing in this one? Or are you tipping the home side, Paul?
I'm going to give you the other perspective on this one. Bleep test midweek, really? Players are going to be fed up. They're not going to like the manager. It's one way out to lose the dressing room. My manager tells me to do a bleep test on a Wednesday. I'm not running through a brick wall for him on a Saturday. How to lose your dressing room in midweek? Absolutely no chance. They're not going to be fit. They're going to be fatigued. They're going to be fed up. They're not going to want to play for him. Newcastle to lose. Forest, unbelievable run to continue. I don't disagree with Neil that Newcastle at the end of the season will finish above Forest. How long they can keep this run going? 3 wins on the bounce. West Ham, Leicester, Palace, decent draw against Chelsea. 3rd in the league. I just think they're in a really good place at the moment. I think it's a difficult place to go, the City Ground. I'm on a home win. Nottingham Forest to beat a fit, fed up, fatigued Newcastle 2-1.
That's interesting because last time Forest beat Newcastle was in the Championship, and that was 2-1. That was 8 years ago with Nicholas Bentner. Remember him? He scored the goal for Forest, or one of the goals for Forest. Newcastle had 2 players sent off that day.
Who got the winning goal? Who got the winning goal? You can't answer it if you're obviously looking at the screen now. Who got the winning goal for Forest that day?
It was Lascelles. Yeah, exactly. He was the guy who scored the own goal. So you're going for Forest. By the way, Forest, if we're going back in time, Forest looking their 4th consecutive win in the Premier League. Last time they achieved that was 1995. The final game on the card for Matchday 11 of the Premier League is Spurs against Ipswich. 1.28 for Spurs. I think this is probably the shortest price of all teams this weekend. Therefore, the biggest price for Ipswich at 9.2. It is 6.6 for the tie. Spurs have won the last 2 home games 4-1, but Spurs have conceded the first goal in both games. And if you look at Ipswich away from home, they're tending to concede quite a number of goals as well. So you've got Spurs scoring plenty, Ipswich conceding plenty. Is this a comfortable home win for your old side, Paul?
Yeah, very much so. Saw midweek against Galatasaray, much changed side. But how Tottenham would it be if they just played at home against Ipswich and lost? I mean, you wouldn't be surprised, would you? It's just the way that they are. Win one, lose one, win one, lose one. I've got no idea how to draw this team. Somebody needs to tell Ange that a draw is actually all right. It's acceptable sometimes, especially away in Europe. We play so wide open. The high line, Dragusin got exposed again midweek. He's not an Ange type of defender. He's holding that high line and he gets caught out far too many times. Tottenham couldn't score. They concede at home against Ipswich. This is an absolute banker, isn't it? Surely. I mean, you can't find any way into this for Ipswich. Draw last week at home against Leicester. 3 defeats on the bounce at Brentford, home to Everton, at West Ham. Games where you would kind of expect them to get some points. 1 non-drawn, 5 lost, 5. It's going to be a long, long, hard season for Ipswich. This is a very, very comfortable home win. I've got them down to get a goal because most teams do score against Tottenham. 5-1 Spurs.
Yeah, I could see that coming. Might be worth looking at Ipswich to score the first goal, though, because as I said, Spurs have scored 4 in the last 2 home games in both of them. And actually, Ipswich have conceded 4 in every single away game, but they have scored in the first half of the defeats that they've had. So Ipswich, I mean, they scored first at Man City as well. So if you think Spurs is a bit short at 1.28, might be worth just to see what happens in play. And then if Ipswich do get the noses in front to then back Spurs to win. Neil, are you going for a comprehensive home win for the home win for Spurs?
Yeah. As much as people are sort of writing off Ipswich, they've played 10 games in the Premier League. They've drawn half of them. They've drawn 5. They've lost 5. They haven't won a game yet. But here's a question for you. So they've lost 5 of the 10. Which of the 3 promoted teams, Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton, have lost the fewest? So if Ipswich have lost 5, is that the fewest, or is it Southampton or Leicester have lost fewer?
Southampton have lost 8 and Leicester have lost 4. So Leicester, they've only lost 4.
Okay, yeah, easy one. Leicester have lost few. But what I'm saying is that they're not losing loads of games. Like Southampton have lost 8 of the 10 games. You're thinking they've got no chance. You're thinking Ipswich have got a chance because they've only lost 5 of those 10. So they're competing. Probably a little bit gutted after last weekend. Should have won the game. To concede so late. Cool, that was a blow, wasn't it? Really big blow. Cracking goal from Leif Davis. See the goal? What a goal that was. Yeah. Beauty. Don't give them a chance. I don't even give them a goal. I don't trust Spurs. Of course I don't trust Spurs. But at home to Ipswich, you've got to. So maybe not as many as what Paul's gone for. I've gone for 3-0 home win. Solanke's in form, isn't he? Got a couple last weekend, got one against Galatasaray. Fancy Solanke to score. 3-0 home win.
And there's Brennan Johnson as well. I'm surprised you've gone for a clean sheet because I think Ipswich are probably good for a goal in this one. But I've got a question. You ready? Spurs last won their home to Ipswich in the year 2000. So 2000. 24 years since Spurs last beat Ipswich at home. Which player scored the final goal for Spurs that day?
Freddie Canute, Jermaine Defoe, Simon Davis,
Defoe
Robbie
wasn't
Keane.
there. Defoe wasn't there till 2004, 5-ish.
I signed in 2004, so I'm trying to think who was there in 2000.
This guy's a legendary striker.
Robbie Keane.
Teddy Sheringham.
No.
No, Robbie Keane, no.
Jurgen Klinsmann.
2000. Les Ferdinand?
Is the right answer. Yeah, Les Ferdinand scored the winner. Top marks for you. So those are the games, all games covered for match day 11 of the Premier League. Whatever your bets are, please do gamble responsibly. Of course, we are keeping tally of the guys' score predictions. They're going head to head each week to see who gets the most points from their score predictions. You get 1 point for a correct result. You get 3 points for an absolute bang on scoreline. And you're playing for the sportsbet.io trophy. And since we introduced the trophy, you've got to stop doing this, lads, because it's not fun. You have drawn the last 3 weeks consecutively, so we're still stuck at 4-3. So it was 7 points apiece. Neil, you got your points.
6 weeks without a win for Paul. The run continues.
But he's drawing. He's not losing. He's drawing.
He's like Ipswich. Can't get a win.
He's like Crystal Palace. He's just drawing too many. But he's still leading.
The other way around, so I think you'll find I'm at the top of it.
Yeah, he is still leading 4-3. So both of you got 7 points last season. There was a couple of late goals that, again, scuppered Neil, which is always funny when that happens. And now it is time for...
His points are made up by correct scores. I'm getting a lot more results right than he is. He's getting the big 3-pointers, maybe 1 or 2 of them. My points are made up by a number of correct results, not exactly scores.
Yes, I can say that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You did get 5 out of 10 correct. That's 50% success rate. But you did get Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool against Brighton, bang on, and Fulham, Brentford. You got the correct result there, Neil. Yeah, that's that leveled it all up for match day 10. So we are still 4-3. Are we going to find a winner this week in the score predictions? We'll find out in match day 12, which is coming up in a couple of weeks because of international football. And now it is time for the trebles. So this is where we are giving the guys 10 USDT to put on their trebles. Last week for Neil, it was Liverpool, Arsenal and Fulham. Arsenal let you down. And Paul, it was Liverpool, Man United and Wolves. And Man United and Wolves let you down. So there was no return from last week. But this week, who is your treble? Let's go first with you, Neil.
Yeah, I've gone for 2 bankers and 1 risky one. So my 2 bankers are Liverpool at home to Aston Villa and Wolves at home to Southampton. And my risky one is Newcastle away at Nottingham Forest.
Wow. Now that is a treble of 7.37. So of course you put 10 USDT on it as we have. That's a return of just over 73 USDT. And Paul, your treble, please.
West Ham United, Manchester United, and the banker of the bunch, Tottenham. And I can tell you that is a 3.64 treble, which will return just over 36 USDT. As always, guys, thank you. And I wish you the very best of luck. Whatever your bets are, please do gamble responsibly. We're heading off now into international football after match day 11. So the Premier League preview brought to you by sportsbet.io for match day 12. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. We'll catch you next time.